Thank you, Sakina. Good day to all the participants and everyone joining us online. I'd like to begin by saying how delighted I am to see the Asia Freedom Institute hosting its first event under the Freedom Hour program. So in the weeks and months ahead, we plan to convene many more online events where we can invite a diverse group of people, experts, activists, journalists, and religious and spiritual figures to really have a conversation around democracy, human rights, and religious freedom in China so that we can create more awareness and greater understanding. You know, there is a Tibetan saying, small stove, hot fire. So that's really what the Asia Freedom Institute aspires to become, a small organization with a big dream and punching above its weight. You know, I mean, if you close your eyes and listen to whether it's a Uyghur, a Tibetan, or a Mongolian, a Hong Kong person, or even someone from the Chinese democracy community, if you just close your eyes and listen to their stories and narrative, it's also similar because I think we are all in this together and fighting the same fight, all, you know, advocating for more rights and freedom from the Chinese government and working towards a more free and open China. So a core objective of the Asia Freedom Institute is to really facilitate this community building and collaboration amongst organizations and communities advocating for more rights and freedom from the Chinese government. You know, in the larger ongoing conflict between democracy on the one end and authoritarianism on the other, it's really important that the communities associated with the Asia Freedom Community, Institute, that we actually have our voices heard and that we have a seat around the table, because these communities represent people who have directly experienced and survived the aggression of the Chinese government. And its people today live in one of the most repressive regimes and systems in the world. So it's very important that, you know, we work towards this common objective in a united and collaborative way, because you know, the whole is much greater than the sum of our parts. And also we have to remember that the Chinese Communist Party and the PRC is a powerful adversary for any one community or organization to confront alone. So again, I want to thank today's speakers and the moderator for this session on human rights in China under Xi Jinping. It's such a timely topic because in a little over a month, on October 16th, the CCP will be convening its 20th Party Congress, where the Congress is expected to rubber stamp an unprecedented third term for Xi Jinping. So what really is the state of human rights in China today? And what can we expect in a possible Xi Jinping third term? So these are really some of the issues that I look forward to hearing more of from our speakers today. And before I hand it over, I just want to quickly touch on a few key things related to human rights in China today, especially in the context of the Chinese government policies towards the non-Chinese communities, you know, quote unquote, the minorities. So there are three really quick things that I'll just quickly run through. One is assimilation. The second is controlling the next generation. And the third is the Chinese government's use of technology as a tool of repression, right? So in terms of assimilation, it's so clear now that the Chinese government has made this very hard pivot from kind of this token policy of accommodating and kind of an affirmative action like policy towards the non-Chinese population to really now full assimilation. So as a result, the religion, the language, the cultural identity of the non-Chinese population is being systematically eroded today. So that's really well documented, and I'm sure our speakers will address that in greater depth. The second is, you know, after following a hybrid policy of harsh crackdown and also undertaking infrastructure and just overall development policy, the Chinese leadership now has realized that the the kind of stability it seeks in East Turkestan, in Tibet and other areas, they haven't really achieved that. So now I think what they are doing is they're really focusing on the next generation of the of the community. And thus, I think a very disturbing manifestation of that is, I think, happening in Tibet, for instance, where today 3 out of every 4 children in the ages of 6 to 18 are being shipped away, to these colonial boarding school-like setup, away from their parents, away from their tradition, away from their language, away from their their identity as Tibetans. And I think the end goal here really is to raise this younger generation. I'm sure something similar is also happening in East Turkestan as well, so that these younger generation of Tibetans and Uyghurs grow up as very obedient, Chinese citizens and as potential CCP members. So that's really happening. And then in terms of China's use of technology, I don't need to dwell on it so much because it's well documented. And again, I think a recent case of this, which has just come to everyone's attention, is the recent report by Human Rights Watch, where in Tibet now, there is this mass DNA collection happening where blood samples from Tibetans, from people as young as 5-year-old, is being taken without their consent. And this is all part of the DNA profiling that's going on. And I think it represents yet another level of repression and control by the Chinese government over the Tibetans and Uyghurs and other non-Chinese population in China. So finally, what I want to say is there's obviously so much to talk about, but just to end on a positive note, I really feel that change in China will come from within. And, I think a lot depends on the economy. And as we all know, the Chinese economy is right now experiencing some major challenges. So I think the years and years of almost 10% GDP growth is now a thing of the past. And I bring up economy because I think the longevity of the CCP is closely linked to this, because the Chinese government has convinced a vast majority of the Chinese population that they should trade in their rights and freedom, in lieu of greater, I guess, economic prosperity and economic development. So I think we really have to watch how the economy unfolds in the next several months and upcoming years. And another critical area is demographics. So many experts have said that the Chinese population has peaked, and there's also now studies out there conducted by the Chinese government agencies themselves, which states that China's population will be half of what it is in the next 75 years. And I think finally climate change, right? I think that's going to be a major disruptor in terms of both the economy and China's social stability. So on that note, I just want to hand it back over to Sakina. And again, thank you so much to all the speakers and to the moderator and to the viewers. Yeah, so over to you, Sakina.